We have ODM's Enticity versus Snailcream in all capitals, I guess. Cool. Enticity, big YouTube channel, plays a lot of domination these days, is very good at it. Popping up in conquest mode for this Warhammer World Championship best of 5. I have literally never heard of Snailcream, so no idea what we're getting into with this player, but Enticity is well known, very common face in the community. As Tern would say, Dreadlord of the Vampire Coast. You know, I once saw a movie back in the 1980s about Dreadlord Haggard Man. There was this guy and he did kung fu with he had a mullet and he said Haggard and Mel Gibson. Indistinguishable. Was Tern in the room? Was Tern with us right now? He just left. My good buddy Tern was at my house helping me record. Wow, what a guest celebrity appearance. I'm so good at impersonations. All right, what do we got? Let's focus on the game. Come on, everybody, shut up. Focus. Blazing Beards of Bosrock, Infernal Guard, and Chaos Dwarf Warriors forming a weird, not box, just kind of Vanguard formation, I guess. Just three-sided box and then an extra one in the middle. Guarding a Deathstreaker rocket launcher. Then we have a Kadai Destroyer, Demons of Sorcerer of Metal with Final Transmutation and the heal, and then Astrogoth with no spells, just his physical resistance Stone Mantle. Couple skirmishers, Hobgoblins, Tiki Gits, Ogre-Khans, Wolf Boys, and an Iron Demon on the flanks. For the Lizardmen who are advancing, we have Lord Mazdamundi with Comet of Cassandra, Ruination of Cities, and Banishment for infantry clearing, and then we'd have a Net and Apotheosis. Sacred Croxagores, including the ROR, Skink Skirmishers, Skink Cohorts, and then some Cold One Riders and Cold One Spear Riders, so just as many armor-piercing Velociraptors as you can get going on. Comet of Cassandra lands on the netted Blazing Beards of Bosrock, taking a lot of their HP with them. I wonder where the Banishments and Ruination of Cities are going to go. I would like to see one right here, because so far you just have Sacred Croxagores in there, so you're not going to friendly fire any Skinks, so I would hope to see those. Ruination of Cities especially is just kind of a wild card of a spell. You could throw that in before your guys get there, but actually the Infernal Guard are going to rout nice and early. That is a bit of a disaster for the Chaos Dwarves. Infernal Guard are kind of supposed to hold till the end of days, but retreating with like half their HP is shocking. Okay, wasn't expecting that. Let's go. Cold One Spear Riders, 3v1ing against Ogre-Khans, Wolf Boys, and then some Hobgoblins, Tiki Gits, but the aid of a Banishment is trying to help them. Honestly, it's hurting them. It is mostly hitting Cold One Spear Riders right now, so a bit of a flub on this engagement. Just going to lose that Cold One Spear Rider for free. And on the other side, a big Final Transmutation comes in onto a Sacred Croxagore, a Cold One Rider, and a Skink Cohort, though other Feral Cold Ones are going to pile in. Final Trans not the best versus this type of units. It's not terrible. But the more models you have, the less effective it tends to be. This Mazda takes another shot from the Deathstreaker rocket launcher before it also retreats. So a lot of Chaos Dwarf units running away right now. They've lost almost all of their infantry support. We have one Chaos Dwarf warrior that is still holding in the distance. And the Iron Demon is doing okay. Ogre-Khans, Wolf Boys are chasing some stuff down, but bounce power is up for the Chaos Dwarves. We'll see if they can clutch it out. Kadai Destroyer is generally not thought to be a very good monster, but I guess there's not a lot here that can kill it, question mark. Astrogoth is a decent melee combatant, and he's teeny tiny, very hard to hit, I guess. I don't know. I think I'd rather be the Lizardman in this situation, but I'm ready to be wrong. As Mazda is standing nearby, trying to offer what leadership support he can without getting so close that he actually gets slammed in the face with the Kadai Destroyer fist. And has the Kadai Destroyer already received a heal? Yes, that or the Iron Demon did. One of the two heals has been used as my main point. As a horrendous blob forms, Apotheosis on the cohort of Waddle, as all these guys are just trying to cluster in and get damage out where they can. They're getting some damage, but they need to be careful that the next Final Transmutation doesn't hit, or at least if it does, that the Lizardmen scatter so they don't just take a ton of damage for free. Also, a mild criticism of this blobbing up. I feel like some of these resources could have been used to chase off the Chaos Dwarf units, because now we have them coming back. Blazing Beards of Bosrock get a blasting charge volley off on the Skink Cohort, and they're now fighting against those guys. So I do think the Lizardmen could be using their resources a little more adeptly, chasing off more things. Haven't captured the capture point yet either. We do have a Feral Cold One that's at full health that's now rejoining the fight, so I have to wonder where that was when some of these forces were being allowed to rally. There is some sloppiness. The Deathstreaker rocket launcher is also going to rally. What? No. No, 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 no. No, Lizardmen, this is unacceptable, okay? I was kind of mealy-mouthing. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, everybody has a story, but no. Deathstreaker rocket launcher being allowed to rally with that much HP, all these Chaos Dwarf units being allowed to rally, these resources need to be allocated a little bit better if you're going to clutch this game out against the Chaos Dwarfs. Kadai Destroyer is taking a lot of damage. Like we said, there's one more heal from the Demon Smith Sorcerer, though I don't know if it's on cooldown or anything. Mazdamundi has a lot of healing left as well, but that Deathstreaker rocket launcher is raining Hellfire down upon the Sacred Croc scores, lowering their leadership as well, which is going to lead to a terror rout. Chaos Dwarves look like they might have this one. Another Final Transmutation goes out on the Cohort of Waddle. It's also going to hit another Sacred Croc score. It's also going to hit Mazdamundi, and he is staying just inside the circle. He needs to back out, needs to get out of there, as he does end up fighting Astrogoth and the Kadai Destroyer. Kadai Destroyer very low, has lost its Unbreakable, it's taken enough damage that it actually could disintegrate away, and a very nice net onto the Iron Demon to save the Skink Skirmisher as a nasty charge. They route the Deathstreaker rocket launcher again as the Cohort of Waddle go after the netted Iron Demon. That's a good play from the Lizardman, but is it going to be enough to clutch out this game? Apotheos is trying to heal up Mazdamundi. Bounce power has gotten worse for the Lizardmen as the Deathstreaker rocket launcher. Okay, I know how that works. I know it was queuing up a shot a long time ago, so even though it routed, it finished the shot, then ran, but that looks so funny because of how long it takes to shoot. It looks like it was routing, turned, shot at Mazda, and kept running, which isn't what happened, but sure looks like it. Feral Cold Ones attempt to block up the Kadai Destroyer, which is getting good hits on Mazda, who has now started routing. Balance of power is shifting heavily away from the Lizardmen, and I don't think Enticity is going to make the same mistakes as the Lizardmen did. I think he's going to successfully chase Mazda off. He's not going to let him go. And yeah, those mid-game mistakes from Lizardman, honestly, just getting, like, I don't want to be a dick about it, but getting a little lazy and just blobbing up on the Chaos Dwarves instead of allocating the resources to chase things off did end up costing them quite a lot. And then playing footsie with Mazdamundi did eventually hurt him when that Kadai Destroyer broke out and just beat him to death. I mean, I guess he walked into Astrogoth a little bit too, so yeah. Mazda playing a little too close to the proverbial, not so proverbial, the literal fire did cost him his life, and without him, the Lizardmen just shatter and die. Damn. Oh, I am so sorry. Snailcream did not have 3 games from the start. That was left over from the last series I cast. I changed the names, but forgot to change the score. So that was 0-0 first game. Sorry. In case someone was like, wow, Snailcream already won 3-0. No, it's definitely not a 3-0 as Enticity starts off the series with a win. Kadai Destroyer, 3,000 value. Ogokhan's Wolf Boys, 1,400, very nice. Iron Demon Deathstreaker Rock Launcher also did fine. The infantry for the Chaos Dwarves got shellacked, which was a bit disappointing for them, but their hero core more than made up for it. Counting the Kadai Destroyer as a hero. He's a hero in my heart. For Snailcream, Mazda did fine. We did see one banishment go wide and hurt a Cold One Rider more than the enemy, and then, of course, a little bit of a blunder there in the late game, but Sacred Croc scores did pretty well, and the build definitely had the capacity of winning, so good build, solid play to bring Enticity to a close game, but just needed a little more discipline in those mid-late game decision-making situations. Game 2, Grand Cathay versus Vampire Counts. Honestly, not a matchup I see very often at all. My instincts would tell me Cathay would just hard box and shoot them to death, but we'll see what they end up doing. And there's a Terrorgeist. What the hell? What happened? All right. Real life called for a brief second, but we're back. We're back in the fantasy land of Warhammer. So Enticity going with a rough box slash checkerboard, depending on how you want to call it. But yeah, defensive formation. Jade Warriors and Jade Warrior Halberds all over the place. And then Peasant Archers, a Crane Gunner, more Peasant Archers. I thought I saw Jade Crossbowman in here somewhere. There we go. 1 Crossman, 1 Nangao Grenadier, an Astromancer with just a Wind Blast, and then his Cloak of Po Mei. And then a Dragonblooded Shugenin Lord of Yang with Jade Shield and Dragon's Breath. Currently getting hit with a Tempest from the Von Karstein Vampire Lord. For the Vampire Counts, we have a Terrorgeist and a Dragon Von Karstein Vampire Lord, Flock of Doom, Wind of Death, Invocation Heck, Raise Dead, and then his Storm of the Night that we already saw one of his 3 uses, just poking down that Shugenin Lord. Fellbats, Corpse Cart with Unholy Lodestone, a Black Coach, Zombies, Skeleton Warriors, and Graveguard with some Crypt Horrors up front. We're gonna have to see some really good breath attacks to win this game, I think. I don't have a lot of faith in the Black Coach. It can do okay, and Enticity certainly doesn't have a lot of mass to stop it. He literally only has the Shugenin Lord of Yang that has any mass at all. So a Chariot versus a bunch of infantry could go well, but if it's not managed correctly, it is going to get bogged down in halberds and die very quickly, or get shot by archers or crane gunners and die very quickly, so the coach is going to have to be managed well. Coach, breath attacks, and good spell usage is what the counts need to win this game. I don't know. Looking at the builds, I really favor Grand Cathay. And yeah, Anticity's doing this. I keep mentioning it, but enough people aren't doing it that I feel like it's worth mentioning. If you take a defensive build in Conquest, you need one of two things if you're going to win the game. You either need such overwhelming long-range damage that you can punish the enemy thoroughly and then take the point from their carcass, essentially, because you're going to need to retake it, or you need a defensive build that is positioned in such a way that you take the point with the defensive build and force them to come to you. But builds I just like never see work in Conquest are defensive builds that have neither of those, like mid-range defensive boxes that aren't deployed anywhere near the point, because then the opponent just takes it and then backs off, and you either have to waddle forward, or maybe they take it and hold it, but you don't do enough damage that you eventually have to charge your defensive melee units against them, and you just can't push them away in time. It just doesn't work out. So you need one or two things. Either ridiculous amounts of range damage to punish them, or take the point like Enticity did, and now he's holding steady. And the pressure's off Enticity right now. Gets a little breath attack on some skeleton warriors in the background, so good stuff there. But his crane gunners can fire freely at anything they feel like, and he can just vibe, you know, poking down the vampires with some spells and stuff. But he's got the point. Time's ticking up. The other side is the one that has to change the state of game. And so far, really the only damage that has happened to Grand Cathay at all is that Storm of the Night onto the Shugenin Lord of Yang. But in the meantime, we've lost half HP and crumbling damage on a skeleton warrior, half HP on a skeleton spearman, a little bit of poke on the Von Karstein Lord, a little bit of poke from crane gunners on Fellbats, it looks like. So yeah, Anticity's fine. Another Dragon's Breath attack goes down on the skeleton spearmen, further damaging them and getting them to crumble as well. And a wind blast on zombies. So Anticity's doing a great job clearing out the front line. Now this is just the random chaff of the vampires, so they are born to die, and die they must. Fallen Karstein Lord starting to take a lot of damage. A Wind of Death comes out, but good dodge by Enticity on the Nangown Grenadiers. Less good, unfortunately for him, on the Peasant Archers, and hits another one. So overall, a really good Wind of Death. Now the Nangown Grenadiers stop to throw at zombies, but Fellbats are going to bog them down in that front line, making it difficult for them to retreat. So this means the skeletons will be able to reach them. The Fellbats aren't the threat. The Fellbats are holding you there while the actual threats arrive. So Anticity's formation is getting screwed up a little bit. Storm of the Night onto the Dragon Mode Shugenin Lord, but she did use Jade Shield to mitigate a lot of that damage. Other Fellbats are stopping the Crane Gunners. And the Terrorgeist and the Dragon Lord have both landed on their own peasants that they're trying to kill off, though honestly the Von Karstein Lord is having a tough go of it. Archers have just thrown on guard mode, are going to fire at him at point blank range. And volume of fire counts for a lot. They're not armor-piercing arrows, they're not magic arrows or anything, but just a lot of arrows into a dragon at close range can do a good amount of damage. Black Coach is charging around, trying to charge up its various abilities. Black Scythes is almost ready. Black Nimbus is working on it, so is Unholy Vigor. Another Wind of Death down from the Vampire Counts, and a solid angle takes damage off of 3 Jade Warriors. Very nice stuff, with only a little bit of friendly fire on a Skeleton Warrior. That was a beautifully aimed Wind of Death, so magnificently done there from Snailcream. Really like that. Peasant Archers still firing away. Fellbats starting to fade in their vigor. Crypt Horrors also taking a lot of damage on the way in. And in comes the first breath attack I've noticed from the Dragon Lord. Finishes off a Jade Warrior, breaking that front line further. How many breath attacks do you have? Yeah, he has 2 left, so that is his first breath attack, but he's already gotten 2,100 value off of Winds of Death and Tempests and all that crap. Terrorgeist gets a good fight with the Dragon-Mounted Shugenin Lord of Yang, and Enticity definitely doesn't want that. Yeah, as soon as he notices it, he runs away, but a couple good free melee attacks in from the Vampire Counts. Crane Gunners and Peasant Archers rallying in the distance, but this is where the Black Coach is going to shine. It will easily run down all of these disparate ranged units, killing them hopefully quickly if you're a Vampire Counts fan, routing them off the map. So how's the fight going elsewhere? Early game was great for Grand Cathay. Mid game, very good for the vampire counts. Beautiful Winds of Death usage, good breath attacks, all those things. Good target selection too. The final storm of the night is slowing down the Shugenin Lord. Once again, Enticity counters it with the Jade Shield, reducing its damage by half. But he's also, like, he being Snailcream, is also using it as a slow to get the Terrorgeist in range of the Shugenin Lord. But a lot of aerial units struggle to hit things that are running away from them because they don't have in-air charge attacks. So the Yang Lord got away to safety, but she kind of dipped to the ground, then went back up into the sky and got nibbled on by the Terrorgeist, so a bit of a whoopsie there. Bounce power is slightly in the Vampire Count's favor as another gorgeous breath attack goes down the side onto 2 Jade Warriors, annihilating a Halberd, which the Halberds are the important ones. They're just better. Like, you generally want a Halberd over a basic Jade Warrior. Shugenin Lord is leading the Terrorgeist away. As the Dragon von Karstein Lord takes out the Astromancer. So earlier I wanted to assess some stuff, but the non-stop action of a Vampire Counts versus Grand Cathay game, there's non-stop action. Weird. The non-stop action made it actually hard to pay attention. I wanted to see how the infantry lines were doing. That's a zombie summon. It's not real. So for actual units, the Vampire Counts are down to 3 infantry who are all attritioning out pretty badly. So you could get into a late game situation of having to fight with Crypt Horrors and Black Coaches and stuff on top of enemy infantry support, but they've taken out a lot of the damage dealers. Astromancer is getting pushed away. He only had Wind Blast, so he's not a big component, but still, kills are kills. Astromancer is pushed away, all the range units getting run down, and the Shugenin Lord of Yang has managed to survive, Enticity juking out the Terrorgeist. The Terrorgeist probably has all 3 of his breath attacks. I haven't seen him use any. No, he has 2. So Von Karstein Lord has 1, and he has Flock of Doom and Wind of Death. We have 2 more breath attacks from the Terrorgeist. That is a lot of infantry killing power, but can Enticity hold on for just another 4 minutes, and he will win this game. But in comes that breath attack. Gorgeous side angle onto 3 blobbed up Jade Warriors. Not critical damage on any of them, but solid damage on all 3. And the Terrorgeist gets another great breath attack down the side. Game 1, I had some criticisms with Snailcream's management in the mid game. He came back with a vengeance in game 2. His mid game has been beautiful. Breath attacks are all where they need to be. His target selection has just been fantastic. Another zombie summon is down. Terror outs are taking all these guys, and it looks like army losses is closing in on Enticity here as the Black Coach has rejoined the main fight and is just charging through Jade Warriors. Getting these halberds to terror out, Enticity throws in the towel. Really good game from Snailcream on those Vampire Counts. Damn, very solid stuff. For Enticity, Yang Lord got about 1,000 value, 200 kills, so was just clearing out zombies and stuff with their breath attacks. The Jade Warriors underperformed what Enticity would have wanted out of them. Archers did okay. Grenadiers struggled a bit. Crane Gunners and the Jade Warrior Crossbows both paid for themselves nearly on the nose. For Snailcream, his Lord and Caster got 3,700 value, nearly 400 kills on Cathay there, so very good stuff. Graveguard did okay. Fellbats did fine. The Terrorgeist didn't get a lot of value, but it was around. The Black Coach got decent value and was mostly just chasing things down after they routed. All right, we have ourselves a series 1-1. See you in game 3. Heresy! Snailcream has taken the beloved Vampire Coast against Enticity. How dare you, sir? How absolutely dare you? Enticity replying with Empire. Kind of a weird build. I get a lot of it, but it's still weird. Boris versus the Coast. Traditionally, I see him versus low leadership factions for his various debuffs, but I know the Undead have technically low leadership, so his Crush the Weak is going to apply and Blood Roar is going to get stuff crumbling, but it still just like looks weird because they're not actually going to rout. Deathcaster with Aspect of the Dread Knight and Spirit Leech. Aspect of the Dread Knight counters Sirens or Celastris. That's quite good. But then it is a lot of Pseudo-Kite. Outriders Grenade Launchers, Outriders Regular, 3 Empire Knights. I thought I saw 4 Huntsmen, and then a Great Cannon in the background. The army makes sense. The Lord choice is a little weird to me, Boris, but the rest of it makes sense. Outrider is going to shoot high on most things, but they'll counterfire Bats pretty well. They'll counterfire the Lamper's Revenge pretty well, as long as the Handgunners get taken out, and that's the Huntsman's job. 4 Huntsmen solid. Traditionally, you see a lot more Archers, like honestly, Archers, Crosswomen, and Huntsmen in staggered lines, but this is also quite solid. On the other side for the Vampire Coast of Snailcream, we have a Polearms Vampire Caster with Winds of Death yet again. He got a lot of use out of that last game. Gaze of Nagash and Invocation Heck. He is not going to get good Winds of Death this game. And he starts out, he's trying to just rip one down the line. He actually angles it very well. Hits 3 Outriders. Gets some damage on all of them, so that ended up being good. But all I was going to say is there's really no infantry for him to hit. We do have Scurvy Dogs in the back line, Animated Hulks, Bomber Bats, Handgun Mobs, the Land Cruiser Revenge, Salt Lord Scuttlers, Bomber ROR, and then some basic zombies. But a dog snuck their way into the back line. Enticity doesn't seem to see them coming. Now he orders some Empire Knights out of the trees, and the Huntsmen are all going to turn and spray fire at the Scurvy Dogs. The Dogs thought for a second about retreating, but it looks like they were just dodging the Huntsman volley, and they are going to get onto those great cannons and try and shatter the crew quickly. Not able to, so they are going to dodge away, occupying more Huntsman time and trying to avoid those Empire Knights. The Dogs are scurrying. 95 speed to 78, but charge bonus is a hell of a drug, so those Empire Knights might still catch them. Who knows, as the Dogs retreat into the woods. The cannon crew is fine, and they'll get back on their mounts and resume firing, so kind of a tense situation from both sides there, but Enticity successfully defends his cannons. Vampire Coast have taken the point, so it's up to the Empire to push them away with supreme displays of damage. And Huntsmen tee off onto a random deckhand mob at first, and they are now switching onto the handgun mobs. Yeah, it's more of what I want to see. If you can kill off the handgun mobs, the rest of this army is complete fodder for your Outriders and grenade launchers and whatnot. But the handgun mobs just outrange the Outriders and will do significant damage, so you gotta kill them first. Huntsmen hold their ground to just stop the Dogs from retreating. They're like, all right, we're gonna get rear charged by Dogs, but we want the Dogs to sit still. So Boris dives in, and with his various leadership debuffs, he just gets them to disintegrate so quickly. So the Dogs are gone, and Enticity might be saving himself one extra headache. A different handgun mob is also going to go the way of the Dodo. As the cannons continue to fire, they're now trying to rip shots up at the deck dropper bombers. And when they hit, they do a lot of damage, but those bats can be flighty and sometimes hard to hit. Boris is upon them, causing that crumbling to come in nice and quickly, so it does look like Anticity's little anti-vampire tech piece is doing well. And speaking of anti-vampires, Spirit Leeches hurting that Crab Lord. On a Crab, he is relatively tanky, but he still has a small-ish HP pool, so those Spirit Leeches are quite taxing. Cannon's in a bit of trouble. The zombies are arriving, and this is the problem with a build like this, is you have no standing and fighting potential for Enticity, so it's going to be hard to keep the great cannons online. Empire Knights are brought in to try and mitigate that charge from the zombies, but they're going to get shot in the sides with handguns as they do. Other handguns are trying to shoot at other things. I kind of hope the handguns don't try and trade with the Huntsmen. They really won't get that much damage out on infantry-sized, max range, spread formation things, so yeah, I do hope they focus on the Knights, the Outriders, anything like that, as Fellbats jump in onto the Huntsmen. An unholy amount of fire gets rid of other deck dropper bombers. The Salt Lord Scuttlers are here now. Let's see how much damage they even do on the Huntsmen. Again, that spread formation should protect them quite a bit. First volley does a quarter of their HP, but the first volley back from the Empire kills the Salt Lord Scuttlers, so not a fair contest. As another Wind of Death is just gonna let it rip right through them. Enticity dodges this time. I think the last time he tried to dodge, but it curved into him or something, but that one did not hit at all. I'm starting to get very concerned for the Vampire Coast, but they did rout off the cannon. They did rout off the Empire Knights, and Anticity's kiting forces are pushed back. Coast also have the capture point. Like, technically things look fine. I'm just feeling very pessimistic right now. Like, enough things just haven't gone their way. Winds of Death ripping into the sunset. I mean, you're not going to have enough Winds of Magic for your Invocation Hex or your Gazes of Nagash, so I'm just worried. I'm worried, which is allowed. Though he maybe doesn't need the Gazes of Nagash, because I think he brought those in case of War Wagons. Who knows? Who knows why he brought them? Another Spirit Leech down onto his caster. He does need to get himself an Invocation to Hex soon, or Boris will dive on him. And Invocation to Hex, some people didn't remember. There was a change several patches ago where now you cannot cast Invocation to Hex if your leadership is low. So if Boris dives on you and you start crumbling, you can't Invocation to Hex yourself until you peel him off and get your leadership back, which is concerning. Cannon crew still routing, Huntsmen rallying in the waiting arms of the Outriders, but this is what Enticity wanted to avoid, and he's now starting to fall back because he's realizing he got a little complacent. The handgunners, when they get in range of the Outriders, do ridiculous damage to those horsemen. Same with the Empire Knights. The Empire is forced to fall back yet again. Enticity is slightly up on balance of power. Positioning wise though, he has 5 minutes left to end this game, or the capture point is going to do the work for him, and the Coast is just driving the Empire back, pushing them against the edge of the map where if anybody routes, they'll go off the face of the earth. One thing to be slightly concerned about for Snailcream is if you push too far away from the point, the Empire with their significantly faster forces can loop around you, go capture the point, and then you'll have to turn around and lumber back towards it. And you don't want this game to go long. You're getting Spirit Leeched, you're getting kited, all these things. You want to win in 10 minutes come hell or high water, right? So you need to be careful. If the Empire takes that point, it just gives them more time to use all their ammunition, to use more Spirit Leeches, and you can't let that happen. Enticity is starting to break and run. Now, big win for the Vampire Coast is the Huntsman. Both of them right next to that white line, like we said, so they're going off the map. Some zombies are trying to stay in range. I'm honestly kind of surprised this Huntsman didn't rally, but they did not. So multiple Huntsmen go off the face of the earth. Great stuff for the Vampire Coast there. Bounce power's back to about 50-50, but you can see Snailcream's now starting to realize the danger and is pulling back. I think that's very smart. Pull back, don't follow. Here, I'm going to use my drawing tools. If he follows the Empire and continues to harass them, they're going to outmaneuver him and get back towards the point, and that's going to be really bad for him. So now that they're not up against the white line, there's no reason to keep pressing them, so he is just going to return to the point. Because even if you route something over here, right, it's plenty of open space to just run away from you and rally over here with significant speed or something. So the only reason he wanted to press up is because of the white line. Boris going for a bit of a charge on our friend the Crab Lord. Gets a little bit of damage and a Spirit Leech, so he's not low enough to start that crumbling or threaten the no invocation of the heck death or whatever, but Enticity just saw a moment to get some damage, and since the whole point is to Spirit Leech him until he's dead, Boris getting a couple charge attacks is just like a free Spirit Leech or two. The Lamprey's Revenge are trying to surround Boris. They're trying to punish this overextension as Invocation of the Heck does come down for the Fleet Admiral. Boris has to be careful. Enticity is trying to use his regeneration, so he's like, all right, I'll take some damage here and then I'll back off, but Boris has to be careful. If he gets stuck on the ground, getting absolutely obliterated by these shotgun crabs, that is going to be a huge problem. And I mean, I think that was planned for a while, but I think maybe Anticity's micro got distracted with some of his skirmishing elements because Boris definitely overstayed. I don't think that can be argued that he should have stayed probably 3 or 4 attacks longer than he should have, and he is getting chunked out in a disaster for the Empire. Now, Boris should be able, now that he's routing, he should be able to get back up in the sky, should be able to regenerate a little bit, but his healing cap is about at half HP, so the most you can hope for is a Boris with half HP as this game goes later, and that is a bit of a disaster for Anticity's forces. His skirmishing is continuing to reap dividends on the forces of the Vampire Coast. They're down to 2 healthy handgunners and 1.5 HP. Though the Spirit Leech caster was just harassing when he's not able to actually get that much damage out. Enticity is trying to capture the point with some Outriders, with some Wounded Empire Knights. Another Spirit Leech on the caster Lord of the Vampire Coast. And the Huntsmen and Outriders are trying to peel the backline, but it's really not working out. 150 seconds left on the clock. The Empire has run out of a lot of HP. The Outriders having to run into melee to try and finish off some zombies, just getting picked apart by the handguns. I think this is gonna be GG. Outriders and Empire Knights make a final stand against the Coast, who are charging back to that point. Boris has rallied and he's gonna run in as well. I think Enticity is just realizing he has to go for the Lord Snipe. No matter how disadvantageous it is, he has to kill that Vampire Caster if he's gonna even have a hope of winning this game, as Empire Knights and the Deathcaster get some more damage on handgun mobs. There is a full health regular crab. It's not the Lamp's Revenge, it doesn't have its own regeneration, but it's still a dangerous crab coming back to the fight. The Empire is getting close to capturing the point as the crabs push away the Empire Knights. They're pushing away Boris, as well as the Outriders just rip shot after shot into the Lamp's Revenge at close range. They're still capturing the point. Enticity just dipping his toes on that point. Boris and the Amethyst Wizard both onto the Crab Lord, but his 120 armor and his 55 melee defense is now coming to the fore. He can't defend against Spirit Leech, but he can defend against the flapping nuisance of a Pegasus Deathcaster. His leadership goes to 0. He's going to start crumbling soon. He's already healing capped, so losing that ability of using Invocation of Hex not as big of a deal for him, but still, bad is bad. It's going to start crumbling. Shotguns ripping shots into Boris and Amethyst Wizard at point blank range. The caster of the Vampire Coast is dead, but he's going to take the corpse of the Empire with him as Boris routs and army losses takes Enticity out of this game. That was a fun one. All right. Little mistake, like not a little, a big mistake there with Boris, uncharacteristic of Enticity. He did have a very difficult build to micro. Like, I'm not going to pretend like, wow, nothing was going on. You just threw Boris away to die. Wow, what an idiot. Like, no, there was a lot of shit going on, but still uncharacteristic from Enticity to overextend with Boris like that and take so much damage. I don't think that was the game-losing play. I think overall, whether you say it's criticisms of mistakes or whether it's a build difference or something, the overall problem was how much damage was being traded rather than enforced upon the Vampire Coast with this type of build. With Enticity's type of build, you can't trade damage. You need to just deal damage, you know? Huntsmen need to get volleys onto unsuspecting handgunners and then get out of range. Empire Knights need to slam into zombies or dogs or bats as they are busy with other things and then get out of range. They can't trade. And Snailcream was able to, through good use of his bats, good use of his dogs, and then good positioning of his various zombies and forces, and then I guess a couple wins of death, but he was able to always trade with Enticity. So Enticity would take, like, I'm making this up, but Enticity would deal 1,000 damage and Snailcream would deal 500, right? So Enticity would deal a lot and Snailcream would deal a little, but Enticity's build was so much more fragile that the 500 as a percentage was actually a lot more of his army than the thousands of Snailcreams. And Snailcream had a good amount of healing with the Lamprey's Revenge and Invocation of Heck as well, so yeah, it was tough. And Enticity had a harder build to execute, but Snailcream kept a cool head and really good positioning. That's the main compliment I want to give to Snailcream in this game. Really good positioning. The dog fluttering about in the early game was quite nice. Forced a lot of micro out of Enticity and distracted his huntsman for a time, which was good. But really good positioning, like just perfect. Pressured the kite build against the edge of the map, got a couple huntsmen to rout off. Enticity's cavalry escaped, but then like really processing the situation and realizing what your win condition was and just backing off. Like, don't overextend, don't keep chasing for more. Maybe you could get a volley or two off here or there, but Enticity's going to outflank you and take the point. Didn't let that happen. Calmly kept his forces together as he pulled back, because he also didn't pull back in a haphazard way, right? His caster looked like he was maybe overextended, but the Lamprey's Revenge were only like 3 claw hops away and then got onto Boris. So his caster was next to his bodyguards, his zombies were in position. No one got so out of position or so bedraggled behind that Enticity's cavalry could take them out. His handguns did offer a good rear defense as he pulled back. And Enticity was trying to cycle charge some of his lower health zombies and the animated hulks or something. The handguns were just ripping shots into the outriders like we saw. So really good army discipline. Liked it a lot. And I think, sorry, I'm gushing compliments because this game was very technical and just impressive in a lot of ways from both players. One thing I really liked from Snailcream was he kept his mind on the goal, as we mentioned, positioning wise, but also if you noticed, I don't think a single time this game did a handgunner shoot at Boris. And I think that's really important, and I think that's really, really rare. And then I'm going to shut up. But this is one of the technically impressive things. In a lot of games, including my own, like, I'm not trying to just say, like, I never do this, but new players are fucking idiots. But, like, lesser skilled players, and I include myself in that, will see maybe Boris overextend in the air. As my voice cracks. Maybe Boris overextends in the air. He sits tantalizingly close to your front line, just to the edge of range of your handgunners, and you maybe click on him with the handgunners, and you get a little bit of poke off here and there, and you're like, yeah, that idiot Enticity put a Boris in the wrong spot, and I got a handgun volley onto him, and it did a little bit of damage. But what I was impressed by, and it showed it by the end of the game, is that Snailcream entirely ignored Boris, did not use Gaze of Nagashes on him, did not waste handgunner time shooting at him because he is small, he is relatively fast, he is relatively well armored against missile attacks, and he has regeneration. And he's not important to how Enticity wins this game. Boris is annoying, but he's not important. So the handgunners stayed laser focused. Whatever Boris is doing, fuck him. Are the Empire Knights in range? Shoot at him. Are the Outriders in range? Shoot at him. Are the Huntsmen in range? If neither of the Outriders or the Empire Knights are in range, fuck it, shoot at him. But Snailcream seemed to know and seemed to have faith that if the Lamprey's Revenge are alive in the late game, Boris literally doesn't matter, and his win condition was the Outriders and stuff. So I never saw the handgunners slowly turning and trying to shoot at Boris, or ripping shots into the sky that most of them go wide or whatever while they're getting pummeled by Huntsmen. And I think that discipline was really, really good and really impressive in hindsight. I think in the game, if I rewatched it, I could find a couple points where in the moment I would be like, why isn't he shooting at Boris here? Boris is right there or something. But seeing how the late game played out, I'm just like, wow. In hindsight, that was really good focus from the handgunners. So yeah, just a really technical game, and not one you see often, because it's a hard balance, right? You have rush games that I love. I'm personally a big fan of rush, where both sides slam into each other. The game's over in like 5 minutes and you're like, wow, that was cool. Rah. And then there's kite games where there's a lot of intricacy, but it can sometimes go a little slow for my taste, then I get bored of it, right? This was one where it's like, it was action-packed, but like a kite game, it was about positioning. It wasn't about slamming into each other. So it's just really, really interesting. I loved that game. That's probably my favorite game I've cast in, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. Because there are games that are close and come down to the last hit, and you're just like, wow, that was cool. And that is cool, but this one is just great. I don't know. I'm smiling. I'm beaming ear to ear. I'll shut up. Let's get on with the series. All right, on to game 4. Enticity, down 2-1. I'd say it's a surprise, as we have High Elves versus Demons of Chaos. This is a terrible matchup for Demons of Chaos. I don't know how he ended up in this spot, but High Elves are very good in this matchup. Anyway, I don't know who Snailcream is, so it's weird to say it's an upset, because for all I know, Snailcream is like just a much better player. I've never seen him, so my point of it being an upset to see this be 2-1 is Enticity is a great player that I know of. So if you present me with a random, I'm like, the odds are good that Enticity is much better than whoever the fuck this is. So Snailcream taking him to game 4, potentially game 5, is very impressive. So whoever this player is, good on you. Happy to see you in the scene. And if you've been playing a bunch of domination, I'm sorry I haven't happened across you. And I keep a side eye on the domination scene. Like, I know my boy Blood Penguin tearing it up, Berserk doing a good job as well. I know of Attack Speed Enjoyer and Charix playing in that scene, so I know some. All right, so Snailcream's been in a lot of tournaments, and I just happen to have not seen him. That's my bad. That's my bad. Let's move on. For game 4, we have Demons of Chaos versus High Elves. Enticity's High Elves, we have Alariel the Radiant with Tempest and Earthblood, with their Star of Avalon as well, a Flamespire Phoenix, and an Arcane Phoenix. So a triple bird Sky Core. Arcane Phoenix getting a beautiful Vortex down on the Exalted Demonettes of Slaanesh. That is huge. He just killed it. He killed it in one shot. That's crazy. Other than that, we have Illyrian Reaver Archers, Illyrian Reavers, Dragon Princes, more of the same on the other side, and then 5 Ships Company. For the Demons of Chaos, we have Pleasure Seekers, Chaos Furies of Slaanesh, Seekers of Slaanesh, Heart Seekers of Slaanesh, 2 Exalted Demonettes, some Nurglings, Pink Horrors, and then Herald of Slaanesh of Shadows with Pit of Shades and Enfeebling Foe. Fury Summon as well. But early game going very, very, very nicely for the High Elves, man. That breath attack, that Vortex was gorgeous on the Exalted Demonettes, and the Chaos Furies of Slaanesh are also at half HP. I'm curious the Arcane Phoenix's values. I'm getting a phone call. What the frick? 1 second. I'm back. It was spam. No spam. It's always spam. Spammity spam spam. Ooh, that might be horrible. Flamespire Phoenix somehow ended up landed, and the Pleasure Seekers jumped on it, but actually getting surprisingly little damage. And the Arcane Phoenix coming over, the memory of the Vortex fresh in their minds, the Pleasure Seekers do retreat. So Flamespire Phoenix, what looked like a dire situation actually is just going to be fine. Chaos Furies of Slaanesh soon to demonic instability crumble away into nothingness. Pink Horrors are trying to fire at Anticity's Illyrian Reavers, but they're going to continue backing off, and the Ships Company also backing off. So Enticity is happy with how this early game is going, doesn't feel like it needs to contest the point, as the Demons of Chaos are going to take it from them. High Elves had it for a brief moment in the early game, but not enough to really matter. Flamespire Phoenix getting some bird poops down on more Exalted Demonettes, really trying to kill off those elite infantry of Slaanesh. How many fire poops do you have left? 2? Then we have Vortexes, 2 more Vortexes as well. Arcane Phoenix is going for another Vortex onto the Exalted Demonettes. Different Exalted Demonette, but the same result. A lot of damage. This one, the Exalted Demonettes are a little quicker on the draw and do dodge some of it, but still a horrendous amount of damage onto them. And the High Elves taking early lead on the balance of power. I would tend to agree. Enticity continuing to soften up his foes. Only has 1 Illyrian Reaver Archer to deal damage at our distance, so he's going to most rely on his air core. The Demons of Chaos struggling to find a good battle. All 3 of the birds land on the Seekers as a rear charge comes in from Illyrian Reaver Archers. Seriously? The Illyrian Reaver Archers are the ones being brought into this? None of these melee cav? Okay, whatever. Seekers very close to demonic instability crumbling. as the other melee-focused Cav are thinking about how to make their entrance into the fight. Other Chaos Fury is looking to get involved, but a Tempest is going to damage and slow them down. Lyran Reaver Archers successful in killing off the Pleasure Seekers. Now do we back off with our only Archer unit, please? As more Heart Seekers dive in onto the birds, but they're really having a hard time getting damage on the birds. I wonder if that's some secret tech Enticity knows about or something, but yeah, the bird's really not taking a lot of damage whenever they get surrounded by any of the Slaanesh Cav that usually tear stuff limb from limb, but the Pleasure Seekers were pretty helpless against Flamespire Phoenix. The Heart Seekers didn't do very much either. Pleasure Seekers, see, they're ripping apart Lyran Reavers. They're much better at that, as Alarielle's going to dive onto them, and the other two birds are close behind. Pink Horrors taking shots at the ship's company wherever they can, and Alarielle throws down a big old heal as a Pit of Shades should hit a lot of high elf units. Enticity is backing off with several of his cavalry, but there's still a lot of models in there getting slurped up. Lyran Reavers and ship's company taking a brunt of the damage as the Dragon Princess did seem to escape. Alarielle's heal, Earthblood, and Star of Avalorn kept the health bars relatively good for an overcasted Pit of Shades like that, but still gonna rout, still a lot of damage as they retreat. Pleasure Seekers close to demonic instability crumbling. Other Chaos Furies have faded, and that Chaos Fury is a summon, so it will eventually kill itself off as the heavy Cav and birds push onto the Pink Horrors, ignoring the Nurglings and Exalted Demonettes they're leaving in their wake. The Herald of Slaanesh is involved in this fight. If the birds find her for a little bit, they'll do a lot of damage. She is quite squishy when push comes to shove. On the other side, the Demons of Chaos actually getting an honest melee fight. They are making good work of the high elf forces that came in. Dragon Princess at half HP, ship's company routing, Lyran Reavers also feeling the pinch. So whenever they get a dedicated melee fight, the demons are doing pretty well, but this game has just been so flighty that it's been difficult for them. Other Lyran Reavers starting to rout, and the Dragon Princes are getting dragged down. Enticity might have gotten a little overzealous as the Exalted Demonettes are finally getting some focus time on these cavalry pieces. Pink Horrors holding for now, Nurglings poking around in the background, but the birds have shifted their focus onto the Herald of Slaanesh. Balance of power is getting dangerously low for the Demons of Chaos. They throw out a Desperation Pit of Shades that catches a few Dragon Princes, but Enticity dodges with half the unit. The Herald is still gonna die, and Army Losses takes out the Demons of Chaos. It is, I mentioned at the start, it is a very tough matchup for the demons in Conquest and Land Battles. The High Elves have an abundance of magic damage at their disposal, really good archers, decent light cavalry, decent monsters, a lot of healing. It's just quite difficult for the demons, in my opinion. Whoops. Enticity smashes game 4 to take us to a game 5. 1800 value on Alarielle. As a healing caster, getting 1800 value is quite a statement. The Phoenixes also did pretty darn well. For Snailcream, it was a one-sided game, probably not going to see a ton of value. 1900 from the Herald, so those Pit of Shades definitely getting a lot of work done, apparently. Heart Seekers did well, Pleasure Seekers did okay. Everything else really did not have a good time. GG's, and on to game 5. Snailcream says, fine, I can do that too, and busts out his high elves for his free elf win. Everybody gets free elf wins because elves are OP. Enticity on Norska, refuting that narrative, saying elves are weak. The dark gods are the way. In our final game of the series, come hell or high water. For the high elves, we have Caradrian. God, this guy is so fraudulent, man. So fraudulent. He's taken all tournament, and he does like no damage. All right, cool. He's not terrible. I do think people are taking him too much, but he's not like abysmal. I just don't like him. And he took a very expensive Caradrian build on his mount with Captain Phoenix Guard, Phoenix Blade, and Faint and Riposte. Okay, whoa, this is very important, but I do want to get through the army compositions. So we have that. Alarielle the Radiant, Tempest? I honestly feel like she got lucky, unless Snailcream just knows Enticity very well and knew he was going to take a Chaos Frost Dragon. But Tempest only works versus flying units, and Norska has like literally 2. Oh, the Chimera. Yeah, the Chimera is pretty common. It did get nerfed, but never mind. Okay, it's a decent bet Enticity was going to take a Chimera, but Chaos Frost Dragon, Chimera, or Manticore are the only flying units Norska possesses, so that could have been a wasted spell. Anyway, that or Earthblood for the High Elves, and then we have triple Phoenix Guard, including the Keepers of the Flame, and then Scions of Mathlan, the Company of Caladrian, and Spearmen on the back line, so a very elite spear box here, and then 4 archers. Norska honestly could do some serious work against this type of thing. They have Fate of Buna, they have Pit of Shades, they have Burning Head, they have Wolfric with Sea Fangs, so this is a risky build to take against Norska, honestly. For Norska, we have Norscan Ice Wolves, Kurgan Horsemen with great weapons, Marauders, mostly 2 Marauder Berserkers and 1 Marauder Regular, and then more Kurgan Horsemen and Norscan Ice Wolves with the Chaos Frost Dragon with his Breath Attack. We do have Wolfric with Hunter of Champions and Seafang, and then we have a Fate of Unicaster. This is crazy. So I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on the builds, which is why I paused. This is so risky to take versus Norska. It's not terrible. It's just like very counterable, right? If you have the counters for it, it's completely fucked. And if you don't, you don't. Enticity technically does. He has Breath Attacks, he has Fate of Buna, and he has Seafang. But what I'm super worried about is Enticity went hard in a different direction. He went full mobility against nothing. So I'm sure as soon as he loaded in, Enticity probably just went like, wow, fuck, these dogs and cav are going to be useless. So his Seafangs and his Breath Attack have got to do a ton of work. We'll see. I think both builds have huge weaknesses, but I don't know whose is going to prevail here, because it's like Inticity's light cav is useless, but his Breath Attacks, Fate of Buna, and Seafang are like usually checkmate against this kind of build, right? So it's like, oh shit, did he bring the counters that are strong enough to win, despite the fact that he pissed away 3,000, 4,000 gold on useless cav now? Because there's nothing for them to do. The cav have nothing they can possibly participate in this situation for. So this is kind of crazy. Anyway, Caradrian immediately dives onto Wolfric, gets hit with Hunter of Champions down to 11 melee defense as the Shaman also dives in. Wolfric got some decent damage down. A Tempest coming in for the Chaos Frost Dragon, and we're off to the races nice and early. Caradrian manages to get back in the sky. Alarielle is not as lucky so far, but Wolfric isn't able to hit her as he's following along, not able to get consistent damage down, and a Seafang, while I wasn't looking, ripped through 2 archers. I hate that. I do not like that at all. It looks good, you get a lot of damage out, but the archers are still 90 out of 90 models. They are still full strength, and you did no damage to the front line, and the front line is the big problem. You can't get through it without Seafang or Breath Attacks or Fate of Buna. So actually, I have to be critical. I really don't like that Seafang from Enticity to start this game off. Chaos Frost Dragon tries to throw a Breath Attack, does maybe a quarter of the Keepers of the Flame HP, but he takes half his HP in Archer shots and Alarielle's poke. And now Enticity goes for the dive. Chaos Frost Dragon lands in the Archers. The Seafang did weaken them a bit, so maybe they can get Terror Routes, and if he Terror Routes them and gets them outside the formation, his dogs and cavalry can go to work. But the Chaos Frost Dragon might just be the sacrifice for the cost. The Kurgan Horsemen that dove into the Keepers of the Flame are getting slapped. They are massacred where they stand, and the Chaos Frost Dragon is pushed away by Caradrian in a disaster for Norska. Kurgan Horsemen try and break through the front line. They get onto a couple of archers as the Fate of Buna punishes the Keepers of the Flame. They are getting healed up by the Captain of the Phoenix Guard. Alarielle even throws a Star of Avalorn on them, so she is not about to let these Keepers of the Flame die. As Wolfric has fully surrounded himself, the Keepers of the Flame, and Caradrian dives onto him. He's already down to half HP and falling, and this game is just tearing away from Norska as the High Elves rip them limb from limb. And honestly, some overeager mistakes from Norska. Yeah, feels like Enticity felt the pressure, felt like he had to break the box quickly, so dove in, but his caster is dead, Wolfric is dead, his front line is dying, and we have dogs and Kurgan Horsemen trying to cycle charge Phoenix Guard, which is just not going to work. The Chaos Frost Dragon is limping back to the fight to maybe use another Breath Attack, but one focused volley from archers or a Tempest from Alarielle is enough to send him routing or kill him outright, and that's just going to be GG. Balance of power is heavily against Norska at this point as the Chaos Frost Dragon fires another Breath Attack down some archers. It does some decent damage, but like, I have to be critical. At this point, the game is fucked, right? Fair. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe Inticity's just getting some spiteful shots onto the archers that plagued him so, but I made a video about this, and Enticity is a better player than me. I acknowledge that, right? But I feel like my video stands where I hate when people use Burning Head on the archers rather than Burning Head on the front line. Burning Head would not do well against Phoenix Guard, right? But bear with me. The point of the video was, if you Burning Head the archers usually survive with like 89 out of 90 models, but all of those models have taken a little bit of damage, right? There's a whole video on it. But the problem is that the archers, now sitting at 25% HP, are still firing at you for 100% of their damage potential, and they are still firing. Meanwhile, the front line you're fighting, let's say spearmen or whatever, they're 100% HP. So your marauders, let's say, are still fighting full HP spearmen, but now they're getting shot by archers. And technically, technically the Burning Head did literally nothing. Even though you can point at the Archer's HP bar and say, look how much damage I did, look how low their HP is, it doesn't matter. As far as damage going out and tankiness remaining, the tanky units still have all their health, which is the only stat they care about, and the archers still have 89 out of 90 models, which is all they care about. So they're still doing max damage. So technically the Burning Head has not changed anything about the situation. And what my video makes the point of is it's way better to use the Burning Head on the Marauders because it takes their HP, which is the stat they give a shit about. So you lower the enemy's defense significantly, then your Marauders, I might have said Burning Head the Marauders, but you get the point. Burning Head the Spearmen. Then the Marauders slam into nearly dead Spearmen who break, and then you broke in the line, and now the enemy archers can't stand and fire because they need to run away from your Marauders. It's a very simple concept, but I see that mistake a lot, and I feel like this game that really hit. If Seafang had been on Keepers of the Flame, paired with the Fate of Buna, you could break that front line and then get your Marauders and Marauder Berserkers through, or maybe sneak some dogs through while he was. And then when the dogs get through, then the Chaos Frost Dragon moves up now that the archers aren't able to focus him down, and gets a breath attack down the side of a different Phoenix Guard, or maybe gets a breath attack down like the Spearmen, maybe go for the lower leadership, less elite units in the back, and make more holes for your Kurgan Horsemen and dogs. I'm not saying this is easy, but it is what he had to do to win the game. We set it up at the very start because I thought the builds were interesting. Both sides had glaring weaknesses, and Enticity was not able to leverage his advantages against the weaknesses of the tight Phoenix Guard box. The Seafangs couldn't hit the front line. The breath attacks couldn't hit the front line. The Fate of Buna did fine, but it was kind of alone in trying to take out the Keepers of the Flame in that aspect. And it didn't matter, the damage on the archers. It just didn't. You know, they stayed, they fired, they did fine. So, but it is like, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot easier to stand here and say, do this, than it is to actually execute it. Pretty one-sided game, so you're not going to see a lot of values, but I'm scrolling over them anyway. Archers still paid for themselves with gusto, even though they got hit with those spells, and the Phoenix Guard just did fantastically. Courageon and Alariel were around. They were offering some peeling, but that wasn't really the point. The point was the box held, and it was just fine. So, GG's, great series from these two. I love that it was really close and really back and forth the first three games, and then the fourth game it was like Enticity stomps, and then the fifth game Snailcream stomps. Just funny. But in a surprising upset, Snailcream is going to advance to the top 16. So, I mean, I love an upset. Sucks to see Enticity go, but I guess I'll just be excited about this new face I've never seen doing well. Rip. GG's. Fun best of 5. Later, Gators.
Subscribe, yes.